Good evening. Hi, I'm Ann Vollen. I'm the Executive Director of the South Dakota Humanities Council. Thank you for joining us tonight to honor South Dakota Humanities Council's 2020 Distinguished Achievement in the Humanities Award winners, as well as the South Dakota State Poetry Society's Poet of Merit Award winners. We would like to acknowledge first and foremost that we stand on the ground which is Dakota, and Dakota homeland. We honor and appreciate the Indigenous people who have the longest relationship to this place. The South Dakota Humanities Council seeks to celebrate literature, promote civil conversation, and tell the stories that define our state. We lead statewide advocacy for the humanities, working with partners to foster literary and civic engagement. Our award winners are excellent examples of our mission and vision for the South Dakota Humanities Council. These awards honor the unique spirit of those who make lasting contributions to the humanities in South Dakota with our 2020 Distinguished Achievement in the Humanities Awards. Tonight's honorees have presented vibrant programs, hosted diverse events, and provided essential leadership, funding, and partnering to sustain a vibrant cultural landscape in South Dakota. Our first honoree in the librarian category is Daria Bossman of Weir. Bossman serves as the South Dakota State Librarian. She previously held the position of Assistant State Librarian for Development, becoming State Librarian in March of 2013. Prior to this, she was the Library Director at Morningside College in Sioux City, Iowa for 15 years. Bossman has been an educator and a librarian for 40 years in the states of Oklahoma, Nebraska, Iowa, and South Dakota. She's a community leader and volunteer and has helped local South Dakota libraries, many rural, connect with numerous South Dakota Humanities Council events, including annual One Book South Dakota discussions and One Book author tours. Under her direction, the State Library has been a conduit for the distribution of dozens of South Dakota Humanities Council's book titles to rural school and public libraries that otherwise could not afford to purchase new books. Bossman is married to Bill Bossman, and they have 3 adult sons and 4 granddaughters. Congratulations to Daria Bossman.
Thank you, Ann, and thank you, Jennifer. This was such a surprise and such an honor. I first and foremost want to say that I really received this as a state librarian. I received this honor for the 500 plus librarians and library workers here in the state of South Dakota. The librarians are often appreciated. They're very rarely recognized formally. And so I appreciate that you have a specific award for librarians, because many of our librarians do so much, especially in the rural areas, to bring civic engagement, community engagement, and cultural enrichment to their communities that have very little programming outside of what the librarian brings to their community. So I want to thank the Humanities Council for having this distinguished award. And again, I received this as an honor for all the librarians in the state of South Dakota. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Daria, and congratulations. Do you have your award? Could we see that?
I do, and you know, I love dignity, and I've gone and stood at her feet many times, so I was thrilled to get a plaque that has dignity on it.
Very welcome. I'm glad that has meaning for you. We know it's a statue that's a lot of people in the state really admire and enjoy, and I'm glad to hear that you do too, but congratulations.
Well, thank you. Well, I'll have to tell you a real quick story. My husband works in Rosebud and in the tribal court and has for many years, and he said that the face reminded him of one of his clerks. So it's very, very authentic Lakota.
Oh, that's really great to hear.
Yeah, it's really cool. If anyone hasn't gone and stood at the foot of dignity, it's a very moving experience. They really need to go. Thank you for this award. It's beautiful.
You're welcome.
I'll put it in my office.
Oh, wonderful. Well, thank you, Daria, and congratulations. Our next honoree this evening in the Organization category is the Children's Museum of South Dakota. As a Festival of Books partner, the Children's Museum of South Dakota has hosted the Young Readers Festival on 3 different occasions, 2014, 2016, and 2018. By providing in-kind donations of space, staff, and volunteers, the museum has helped contribute toward the success of the festival. The museum is a longtime supporter of the humanities, promoting learning for children of all ages and abilities through interactive, informal, hands-on exhibits and programming. They live daily by their mission to spark imagination for all children and their grown-ups through play, creativity, and discovery. Accepting on behalf of the museum is Mike Mogard, Executive Director. Congratulations to the Children's Museum of South Dakota.
Thank you, Ann, Jennifer, and the South Dakota Humanities Council Board of Directors for this award. We recently celebrated our 10th anniversary, 10 years of playing in downtown Brookings. As we reminisce about 10 years of serving guests from all 50 states and more than 20 countries, we also celebrate those who have partnered alongside us as we work to foster play, creativity, and discovery. The South Dakota Humanities Council has been our cheerleader and supporter from the very beginning, since before we were even open. With a grant from the Humanities Council, together we created the Lakota Hoop Dancer video featuring Dallas Chief Eagle in the Our Place on the Prairie exhibit. The exhibit has now engaged more than 1 million people who include toddlers just learning to walk and barely able to hold a hoop, preschoolers watching and mimicking the moves made on the screen, and older children and adults able to closely follow the steps and complicated movements in time with the dancer. Each time a guest engages with the exhibit, they learn something new, from developing gross motor skills to learning about the Native American culture. This exhibit is a prime example of the collaboration between our 2 organizations. We're honored to have been a part in the Humanities Council signature event, the South Dakota Festival of Books and the Young Readers Festival. We've hosted 74 author presentations to over 1,700 children throughout those years. We're excited to have this Celebrate Children's Books and Literacy exhibit in our traveling exhibit through a grant from the Humanities Council as well. Our celebration of literature continues today as we house more than 550 books on our museum floor, books that tell stories, promote conversation, and set children and adults up for lifelong learning. I started at the museum in 2014. One of the first major projects that I helped with was hosting the first Young Readers Festival, which included author Kate DiCamillo. We were enthralled that during her visit to South Dakota, she took the time to explore our museum. She actually climbed into our 2-story cloud climber, crawling higher and higher until she got a bird's eye view of our museum prairie. Watching her play and engage in the prairie was symbolic of exactly what we aim to do at the Children's Museum of South Dakota, spark imagination for children and grown-ups. May we never stop learning. On behalf of the board and the entire team of the Children's Museum of South Dakota, thank you for this award, and thank you especially for your partnership. We look forward to continued collaborations that will have a lasting impact on the people of our state. I will end by sharing some of Kate DiCamillo's words, reflecting on an essay by Anthony Doerr. Listen, ask, tell. Stories matter. They connect us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike, and congratulations to the Children's Museum of South Dakota. Oh, it looks great. I'm glad you've got your plaque there too. We had to distribute these early because, you know, of course, usually we would have handed them out on stage, but this was not what was going to happen this year. So many thanks to you, Mike, and the Children's Museum of South Dakota. Thanks again to Mike and to the Children's Museum of South Dakota.
Thank
Our
you.
final honoree in the individual category is Nancy Weir of Sioux Falls. Nancy is currently the Director of Programming at Active Generations, AG, in Sioux Falls, and was previously the Director of Osher Lifelong Learning Institute, OLLI, for the state of South Dakota. She has passionately focused much of her professional life on education as an administrator, an educator, and counselor for all age levels, early childhood to retired seniors, and enhancing the quality of life for individuals in the state of South Dakota. She remains a strong advocate for lifelong learning and a promoter of the South Dakota Humanities Council, valuing the contributions and work that is done by the South Dakota Humanities Council. Through her work with OLLI as well as AG, she has led the efforts to coordinate and host many South Dakota Humanities Council programs, including scholar presentations and book discussions, serving as a Festival of Books partner, and providing in-kind donations of space, staff, and volunteers. Nancy's motto for life: live, learn, laugh, love, life. Congratulations to Nancy Weir. We had hoped that we were connecting with Nancy. I don't see that we have her connected at the moment. It looks like we have a picture of Mike once more. I'm wondering if our tech staff can pull up Nancy Weir for us, please. Well, let's try one more time, see if we can get Nancy Weir. Oh, that would be Mike, not Nancy. I think this may be one of those moments where we just don't have quite the right Zoom connection for somebody tonight. Well, many thanks to a winner in the individual category, Nancy Weir of Sioux Falls. We would like to thank all of our honorees for their tremendous support of the humanities in South Dakota. We feel like we chose very well when we chose the opportunity to award you for distinguished service to the humanities in South Dakota. Thank you. We'll now move into our next ceremony, the South Dakota State Poetry Society's inaugural Poet of Merit Awards. Here to explain this new award is Bruce Roseland of the South Dakota State Poetry Society.
Hi, I'm Bruce Roseland, President of the South Dakota State Poetry Society, which is a statewide organization promoting poetry for over 90 years. Among our many endeavors, we have continuously published Past Petals, our poetry magazine. In those 90-some years, we have read the writings of many South Dakota poets, good poetry. Unfortunately, the lack of places to be published, venues in which to be heard, time itself, had the tendency to fade away names, even good writing. We'd like to do our part to honor some of the great South Dakota poets of the past and the present. We have created a Poet of Merit Award that has two categories, one for a deceased South Dakota poet, and one for a living South Dakota poet to honor what we feel are the greats. Those who have helped make our strong tradition of remarkable writing. We will also have the poets' writing archived in the Bridget Library located at SDSU, so that the future may find and enjoy their poetry. We do not want our best to be somehow lost in the sands of time. South Dakota State Poetry Society plans to continue these awards yearly. In South Dakota, there are giants in the earth, and among them are our poets. Thank you. Hi, I'm Bruce Roseland, President of the South Dakota State Poetry Society. Let me talk a little bit about the recipient of our South Dakota State Poetry Society First Living Poet of Merit Award. Linda Hasselstrom has written numerous books that revolve around her love and life on the western plains of South Dakota. Linda's love of poetry started as a young child. She eagerly read Badger Clark and began keeping journals of her life on the family farm. Her first book of poetry, The Muse is Blue, was published in 1965. Since then, Linda had received many awards and honors for her poems that bring the readers inside the rhymes and rhythm of country life. A partial list includes the Wrangler Award, Best Poetry Book 2000, several women writing the West, Willa Literary Award 2010, 2012, 2018, South Dakota Council of Teachers of English, Author of the Year in 1997, Distinguished Achievement Award, South Dakota Newspaper Association, 1996, South Dakota Governor's Award in the Arts, Creative Achievement, 1990, South Dakota Hall of Fame, Champion of Excellence in Arts and Entertainment, 1989, and National Endowments for the Arts Fellowship Poetry, 1984. To put it plainly, Linda Hasselstrom is a living legend, not just because of her writing ability, but also for her outspoken advocacy of Western South Dakota life, its people, and the need for environmental preservation. Besides providing volumes of her own writing, Linda has mentored many female writers through a writing workshop conducted in the Windbreak House, located on her ranch near Hermosa, South Dakota. Linda is the essential Western South Dakota poet, writing poems about the experience of living in the western part of her state during the last half-century. She writes from a woman's viewpoint, always with a love of the land and the friends we have been blessed with. I believe Linda writes the way we all would if we could. From her first book of poetry in 1965 to her last Gathering from the Grassland, a Plain Journal in 2017, Linda has given us over 50 years of writing. Thank you, Linda, for all you have done.
I'm Linda Hazelstrom, and I'm sorry I can't be with you all today to accept this wonderful award. Instead of receiving congratulations in person, I'm at home on my ranch on the grasslands of South Dakota, and I'm probably working on a poem, looking at the 14th draft or the 67th. For this honor, I thank the South Dakota State Poetry Society, the South Dakota Humanities Council, and the dedicated writers and editors who produce Past Petals. I'm especially grateful to Daniel Sneathen, who accepted 3 new poems of mine for the spring issue of the magazine. And I thank my mother posthumously for reciting poetry in the kitchen as she fixed meals in that old ranch house 24 miles from town. I'll confess that giving speeches is among my least favorite activities. Fortunately, thanks to my excellent assistant and the wonders of modern technology, I'm able to do what I would do if I were there, let one of my poems speak for me. This is Where the Stories Come From, published in my book Bitter Creek Junction, and dedicated to Wally McCrae and Joel Nelson, a couple of cowboy poets on whom I was eavesdropping at the National Cowboy Poetry Gathering. Where the stories come from. You didn't know? He died, young and hard and bad. That voice could fill a stadium, but he spoke low and flicked a glance beneath his Stetson brim at me. I turned away, but I'd already heard enough. The tale began to grow, to put down roots within my brain, already thick with other tales. I chose this job of telling stories, counting lives gone by too soon. What I don't know, I'll guess. I suppose his father made him tough by being cold and rugged. He learned to be a man by never showing fear. His mom spent all her time alone, fixing meals and counting hours in that old ranch house 24 miles from town before she met the guitar picker she ran off with when the boy was 10. His dad bought him a pickup when he finished high school, took the boy to his first fancy bar. His sister got advice to go to school, find herself a husband, settle down, and have some kids. I didn't hear enough to know if it was drugs or drink that got this one, but I can see him gun a graveled curve on some Montana back road, laughing fit to kill as headlights sweep around the bend, baffled when the stars come down to meet him. I can hear the crash. I wonder, did he leave some girl in terror, pregnant with the memory of his grin? Does his dad just drink and stare at empty spaces where he hoped for family settled on the land that bore his name? I heard a bit of talk I wasn't meant to hear, and now I can't get rid of it. I might as well get dressed and write it down. I'll sleep no more tonight. Thank you.
And now we're moving on to South Dakota State Poetry Society member Norma Wilson, who will introduce the state's inaugural Poet of Merit posthumous.
Thank you. When the South Dakota State Poetry Society first decided to offer 2 awards of Poet of Merit, and I learned about the posthumous Poet of Merit Award, I knew right away that I wanted to nominate Zika Shah. She was truly an extraordinary woman, human being, poet, musician, activist, orator. Born in 1876 on the Yankton Sioux Reservation in Dakota Territory, and named Gertrude Simmons by her mother, Zika Shah spent her early childhood surrounded by her Dakota community and listening to traditional stories and living the traditional way of her mother's people until the age of 8. And that's when Quaker missionaries came and enticed her to come with them to travel to the land of the red apples. This was the place where there was a Quaker boarding school called White's Manual Institute. She spent 3 years there at the boarding school, lonely for her mother, but at the same time, she was a person who was very curious, who loved learning, and who was very capable at it. She learned to use the English language well. After she returned to the reservation after 3 years, at the age of 11, she found that she felt out of place. She could not really communicate with the people there, and she was different. She had changed, and they had changed. The place had changed. She spent 3 more years. She studied part of that time in Santee, Nebraska. She was unhappy. She decided to return to White's and finish high school there. So she graduated from high school at that boarding school, and then she enrolled in college at Earlham. Her mother was against all this. She didn't want her to ever leave her, and she loved her very much. And of course, Zika Shah loved her mother, but she wanted to learn. She continued. She learned the British forms of poetry. She learned to use English, but her content of her poetry always was about her Dakota culture and Lakota culture as well. She excelled at Earlham in a number of ways. She won an award as an orator, a statewide award while she was there. She began writing poetry, and her earliest poetry was published in the Earlhamite, the college magazine. She later, after she finished the work she did in college, she published essays. And that's when, and they were about her boarding school experience, and they were in Atlantic Monthly. And that's when she really became famous. And really, she's best known as far as being a writer for her prose, for her stories. But her poems are very powerful. And when she returned to, when she returned east, she decided after that time in the early 1900s that she would go back to the reservation and collect some more stories because she was writing a book, Old Indian Legends, and she met a man that she'd known in childhood, Raymond Bonin, and married him. And they spent some years in Utah. He was working for the Bureau of Indian Affairs there, wrote an opera, and then the two moved to Washington, D.C. And that's when she got involved in politics. Now, this year is the 100th anniversary of the passage of the 19th Amendment, which guaranteed women the right to vote. And Time magazine honored 100 women, and Zika Shah was one of them. She was among the suffragettes. She worked very, very hard for the indigenous people's right to vote. She said, give the first Americans the right to vote. And finally, they got citizenship. She worked for citizenship, which they received in 1924, but the right to vote was not guaranteed until 1962, and as we know, is still very difficult for a lot of Native people because they live in remote areas and it's not made easy for them. Too often it's very hard for them to be able to do that. I would like to ask Mabel Peacock to read some of Zika Shah's poems, and I'm really so pleased to be able to introduce her because I've known her for a long, long time. I remember her as a child. Her mother, Agnes Peacock, and I will talk about Agnes after she reads her poems, or she's welcome to say all she wants about her mother too, but Agnes Peacock is the person who really has written with most understanding and grace and a wonderful biography of Zika Shah, which introduces the book Old Indian Legends. So if you're ready, Mabel, I'll just turn it over to you and we'll listen to some of these poems that Zika Shah wrote.
Okay, thank you. Hi, I'm Mabel. First poem is called Iris of Life. Like tiny drops of crystal rain, in every life the moments fall to wear away with silent beat the shell of selfishness or all. And every act, not one too small, that leaps from out the heart's pure glow, like ray of gold sends forth a light, while moments unto seasons flow. Athwart the dome, eternity, to iris grown splendent, fly. Bright gleams from every noble deed tell colors with each other vie. 'Tis glimpses of this grand rainbow, where moments with good deeds unite, that gladden many weary hearts, inspiring them to seek more light. Okay, the next poem is called The Indian's Awakening. I snatch at my eagle plumes and long hair. A hand cut my hair, my robes did deplete, left heart all unchanged, the work incomplete. These favors unsought, I've paid since with care. Dear teacher, you wished so much good to me that I thought I was blind and I strove hard to see. Had you then no courage frankly to tell old race problems Christ even failed to expel? My light has grown dim and black the abyss that yawns at my feet. No bordering shore, no bottoms e'er found by hope sunk before. Despair I of good from deeds gone amiss. My people, may God have pity on you. The learning I hoped in you to imbue turns bitterly vain to meet both our needs. No sun for the flowers, vain planting seeds. I've lost my long hair, my eagle plumes too. From you, my own people, I've gone astray. A wanderer now with nowhere to stay. The will-o'-the-wisp learning, it brought me rue. It brings no admittance where I have knocked. Some evil imps' hearts have bolted and locked. Alone with the nights in fearful abyss, I stand isolated, life gone amiss. Intensified hush chills all my proud soul. Oh, what am I? Whither bound thus and why? Is there not a God on whom to rely? A part of his plan, the atoms enroll? In answer, there comes a sweet voice and clear. My loneliness soothes with sounding so near, a drink to my thirst, each vibrating note. My vexing old burdens fall far remote. Then close your sad eyes, your spirit regain. Behold what fantastic symbols abound, what wondrous hosts of cosmos around. From silvery sand, the tiniest grain, to man and the planet, God's at the heart. In shifting mosaics, souls doth impart, his spirits who pass through multiformed earth. Some lesson of life must learn in each birth. Divinely the voice sang, I felt refreshed, and vanished the night, abyss and despair. Harmoniously kinship made all things fair. I yearned with my soul to venture unleashed. Sweet freedom, there stood in waiting a steed, all prancing, well bridled, saddled for speed. A foot in the stirrup, off with a bound, as light as a feather, making no sound. Through ether, long leagues we galloped away. An angry red river, we shied in dismay. For here were men sacrificed, cruel deeds, to reptiles and monsters, war, graft, and greed. A jungle of discord drops in the rear. By silence is quelled suspicious old fear, and spite, gnat's low buzz, is muffled at last. Exploring the spirit, I must ride fast. Away from these worldly ones, let us go along a worn trail, much traveled and low. Familiar the scenes that come rushing by, now billowy sea, now azure sky, amid that enchanted spade, as they spun, sun, moon, and the stars, their own orbits run. Great Spirit, in realms so infinite reigns, and wonderful wide are all his domains. Hark, here in the spirit world, he doth hold a village of Indians, camped as of old. Earth legends by their fires, some did review, while flowers and trees more radiant grew. Ah, you are all dead, and Lethe you were tossed. I cried, everywhere 'twas told you were lost. Forsooth they did scan your footprints on sand, bereaved I did mourn your fearful sad end. Then spoke one of the spirits' space, so sedate. My child, we are souls, forever and I. The signs in our orbits point us the way. Like planets, we do not tarry nor wait. Those memories dim from dust to the man, call instincts, our trophies won while we ran. Now, various stars where loved ones remain are linked to our hearts with a memory chain. In journeying here, the aeons we've spent are countless and strange. How well I recall old earth trails, the river red above all, the desert sands burning us with intent. All these we have passed to learn some new thing. Hear me, your dead doth lustily sings. Rejoice, gift of life, pray, waste not in wails. The maker of souls forever prevails. Direct from the spirit world came my steed. The phantom has placed in what was all planned. He carried me back to God and to the land, where all harmony, peace, and love are the creed. In triumph, I cite my joyous return. The smallest wee creature I dare not spurn. I sing, gift of life, pray waste not in wails. The maker of souls forever prevails.
So
Thank
beautiful.
you.
You really brought her to life, I think.
Oh, thank you.
I could hear her voice in it. I mean, it really was wonderful for you to read them, and the words just came off the page.
Thank you. It's very beautiful poetry. Yeah.
You know, I remember going down in Dakota Hall to your mother's office. I would visit her, and she had a photograph of Zika Shah on the wall of her office.
Oh, wow.
And I remember asking her, I think I found out for the first time about her from Dr. Peacock, because I asked her, who is that? And she said that was Zika Shah and how much she admired her. And then I later read in this wonderful essay that she wrote about Zika Shah's life, that she had found out about her when she was in school in Oregon at the university. She was studying at the University of Oregon, and she found, she came upon her work.
Yeah, it was Old Indian Legends, and it was published in 1901. Or no, yeah, 1901. And so then, and she read it while she was in Oregon, and then it wasn't being published anymore, so she republished it and wrote the biography in the forward. Yeah.
Right. And all the books, well, 3 of the books, Old Indian Legends, American Indian Stories, and then this one that you read from, right?
Yep. Yeah. This is very more recent than the others.
Yeah, University of Nebraska Press. So that's the place to read more poetry, and Jane Hoffin's edition of her poems. I'd like to see more. Maybe there are more there that haven't been.
And the opera, she has the Sundance Opera in this book as well, and that's really
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, she passed away in 1938. And she and her husband, Raymond, who was a captain in World War I, are buried at Arlington Cemetery. You can learn more about her writing from reading Old Indian Legends, American Indian Stories, and this Dreams and Thunder. And there's going to be a showing of Unladylike.
Yes.
As part of this festival. It's Tuesday, October 13th. I don't remember what time, but it's part of the book festival, and there's a wonderful segment. Have you seen that, Mabel? Did you?
Yeah, I think it's at 2:00.
It is at 2 p.m.
Yeah, good.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate this wonderful introduction to and the ability to tap into Zika Shah and learn more about her and to hear about her, and how wonderful to be honoring her posthumously. Thank you, Bruce Roseland. Thank you, Norma Wilson. Thank you, Mabel Picard, for your time and your efforts to make sure that we honor these particular poets. Thank you for sharing with us and honoring the poetry of Linda Hasselstrom and Zika Shah. And thank you too to the Distinguished Achievement in Humanities winners, Daria Bossman in the librarian category, Children's Museum of South Dakota for an organization, and Nancy Weir for an individual. Congratulations to all the winners tonight, and thank you for what you do in South Dakota to promote the humanities in so many wonderful, rich ways. We appreciate the chance to have this presentation tonight, and we thank everyone who has joined in. We still have 2 great keynotes coming up this evening, and I'd like to remind you of those and invite you to please join. At 7 p.m., please join us for Devolution, Bigfoot, and Big Ideas with Max Brooks. And at 8 p.m., Mystery, Mayhem, and More with 4 best-selling authors. I'm looking to see all 4 of their names so I don't lose track of them. Robert Dugoni, William Kent Kruger, Amy Stewart, and David Wyden. Many thanks. We hope you'll join us for those sessions, and don't forget to come back tomorrow at noon for another full days of author events. Thank you and have a good evening, everyone.
Bye.